Hello, everyone. More than 20 years ago, in 2003, a case involving a notorious gangster shook the whole of Vietnam. This was the case of the criminal mastermind Năm Cam, who could be described as the real-life godfather of that era. Even now, the details and lessons from this case remain highly relevant. Today, let's explore who Năm Cam was, what he did, his crimes, and the consequences he left behind in the most concise and straightforward manner. Năm Cam's real name was Trung Văn Cam, born on April 22, 1947, into a poor family in Saigon. Being the fifth child in the family, he was nicknamed Năm Cam. He lost his father at the age of 10 and his mother at 15. As a teenager, Năm Cam quickly associated with other delinquent youths in his neighborhood and began engaging in criminal activities at a young age. To protect his gambling den, he and his brother-in-law got into a brawl with a group of people. His brother-in-law killed one person in that fight. To save his brother-in-law's career, Năm Cam took the blame and served 3 years in prison at the age of 15 due to his minor status. In the 1960s, after his release from prison, he became a close associate of Dai Cathay, the top gangster in Saigon at that time. During this period, Năm Cam learned from Cathay how to run and organize gambling dens for significant profit, which later became the main source of income during his dominance over Saigon in the 1990s. After April 30, 1975, when South Vietnam was liberated, Năm Cam continued to organize gambling operations and was arrested multiple times, serving sentences ranging from 2 months to 3 years. In 1994, after another arrest, Năm Cam used his connections to bribe officials and escape punishment. Among those bribed were journalist Trần Mai Hant, General Director of Vietnam Radio, and Pham Si Chien, Deputy Director of the Supreme People's Procuracy of Vietnam, with a bribe amounting to about $60,000 in 1995, equivalent to 130 taels of gold, or approximately $260,000 today. With his experience in running gambling operations, he accumulated significant wealth. One of his largest gambling dens in the 1990s generated around 70 to 100 million VND per day, equivalent to 1.6 billion VN today. He didn't just have one gambling den. He had many large and small ones, totaling several billion VN per day. After 6 months, the revenue from his chain of gambling dens amounted to 300 billion VN, roughly 14 million USD. Furthermore, he wielded enough influence to mediate disputes and act as a sort of godfather in the criminal underworld. Năm Cam's gang had long been under surveillance by the Vietnamese police. However, a turning point came with the assassination of Dung Ha, a famous female gangster from Hai Phong, living in Ho Chi Minh City, formerly Saigon. Năm Cam wanted to collaborate with Dung Ha to expand his gambling network to the north, but Dung Ha intended to form her own gang. At the same time, a figure named Hai Bang, a former associate of Dung Ha, began to rise. Hai Bang, who had moved from Hai Phong to the south, was supported by Năm Cam and assigned to protect a nightclub. Hai Bang's gang began to overshadow Dung Ha's. To retaliate and humiliate Hai Bang for joining forces with Năm Cam, Dung Ha had her men deliver a gift of rats and feces to Hai Bang's nightclub on its anniversary, causing a scandal. Shortly after, Năm Cam and Hai Bang plotted and succeeded in assassinating Dung Ha on October 2, 2000. Unfortunately for Năm Cam, the Vietnamese police quickly apprehended the assassin, who soon confessed. The assassin revealed Hai Bang's involvement. After 7 months of investigation, the police arrested Hai Bang. After over a month of intense interrogation, Hai Bang finally confessed that Năm Cam was the mastermind. A detailed plan was set up to capture the crime lord. At exactly 12 a.m. on December 12, 2001, Năm Cam was arrested. Interestingly, despite his arrest, no one around seemed to notice. The arrest occurred after Năm Cam left his mistress's house around noon on his motorcycle. A young undercover officer, dressed casually, called out, "Mr. Năm, how are you?" As was his habit, Năm Cam reached out to shake hands. Instantly, he was subdued by the officer's touch, which immobilized him. In just 10 seconds, the officer pulled Năm Cam into a house. After reading the arrest warrant, Năm Cam was taken away in a Mazda. Even the doorman thought Năm Cam was simply meeting a friend. The trial of Năm Cam set numerous records at the time. There were 80 defense attorneys for the defendants, and to ensure the trial could proceed smoothly, there were over 500 participants, with expenses amounting to 800 million VND, approximately 114 taels of gold, to upgrade the courtroom facilities. A total of 155 defendants were tried, including 107 in detention and 48 out on bail. Năm Cam was charged with 7 crimes: murder, bribery, intentional injury, gambling, organizing gambling, concealing crimes, and arranging for people to flee the country. He was ultimately sentenced to death. Additionally, 5 others also received death sentences, totaling 6 death penalties. Among the 155 defendants, 21 were former government officials and law enforcement personnel, including 13 police officers, 3 prosecutors, and 5 administrative staff. 17 party members were expelled, and 10 party members had their membership suspended. After the Năm Cam case, there was a push to reform the entire political and legal system to combat gangster groups. This made it so they would not want, dare, or be able to act with impunity. The Năm Cam case has left a significant mark on Vietnamese history. It is not just a story of corruption and power, but also a lesson in the strength of justice. More than 20 years have passed, but the lessons from this case remain highly relevant. A civilized society is one where the law stands firm and justice is upheld. Thank you for watching the video. If you found it interesting and useful, please like and subscribe to the channel. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.